client, Ryan Weldon from 13th Bridge Games Studio. Ryan is launching a mobile game called Run the Court as his first offering under 13th Bridge. And we've had the pleasure and honor of working with him in bringing this brand to market. And we are here to just tell Ryan's story and hear a little bit more about his inspiration and where he's taking this 13th Bridge brand. So welcome, Ryan.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
How does it feel to be back in Chicago?
It feels good. Living in Portland now. The weather doesn't feel so good. That part of it I could leave behind, but it's nice to be back downtown. Love Chicago. Definitely, of all the places I've lived, it's up there as one of my favorite.
Where else? What's on your list?
Let's see. I love Portland. Portland's really cool. I never thought I would live in the Pacific Northwest, but here I am. I think Chicago's probably my favorite. New Jersey, I lived there 3 different times, but in the first couple times I didn't like it, but I've come around on it, and now I do actually have some definite love for Jersey.
When I think of Jersey, I immediately think of Sopranos, and I bet a lot of people think that.
So we're going to deal with this as a family, together, no matter how it affects anybody.
There's a lot of that. Jersey's got a little bit of everything, which is good and bad. And you've got the proximity to Philly, you got the proximity to New York. But I mean, Southern Jersey is like farmland.
Yeah.
Central Jersey is kind of all over the place. Northern Jersey has got a little bit of that Sopranos vibe. Definitely have some of that. You get that reputation for a reason.
Yeah. Awesome. So just to give a little backstory on Ryan and I, our journey before we dive into 13th Bridge and how you got to this point. So you were working in the pharma world.
Yep.
I was brought in to build an app for a few of you guys, you and your couple colleagues. And then from there, I think just the relationship kind of developed, and then we were able to build our publishing company together.
All right.
Ashton Wells Publishing.
Good plug.
Yeah. And then from there, it really just, the thing that I like the most about you is just, you're always thinking of like things out there, how to improve things that don't exist. And so I think you and I are really aligned in that. And so it's cool to see this develop into a game and a potential game studio. But tell us your journey. Let's hear of how you got to this point before 13th Bridge.
So I mean, I spent a significant amount of time working in healthcare space. Was there from graduate college in 2000. Thought I was going to actually go into teaching. My background's in education and English, and you get a job offer. They offer you a little bit of money when you're like, oh, I'm still trying to pull enough money together to get something to eat while you're in college. And then, so you take it and you're like, oh, this is awesome. So I took a job in sales. Was something I knew was gonna force me outside of my comfort zone, which I think was a good thing. And it did. And I started in Boston, for the first year. And then I got sent up to Portland, Maine, another place I never thought I'd live. But that was an interesting experience. And then just kind of follow my career. It took me to a few different places. Finally decided I wanted to do something different. Wanted to leave pharma. Went to business school at UCLA Anderson. And, while I was there, it was like, I want to explore all these different things, try something else. And then I got a job offer in pharma that was too good to pass up. So they pulled me back in.
That's when I thought I was out. They pulled me back in.
So I went back into pharma, and yeah, exactly. You can't leave. Yeah. Did that for another 6 years, and I was finally like, all right, now I really want to do something different. And when I left that, I kind of said, the next thing I do, I want to do it either anything with a bunch of people I really enjoy working with, or I want to do something I really enjoy with anybody. And I sort of picked some projects, did some consulting work, and then, this opportunity came along, kind of made it happen, I guess, but met my co-founder, Hem, about 7 years ago, and he had worked in the tech space and developed a CRM software. He was a founder of a company.
I didn't realize you guys knew each other that long.
Yeah, it's been like 7 years now. So when I was doing some strategic consulting work, his company was one of my clients. And it was one of those situations where we had corresponded via email. It had all been like very professional. And then he's like, hey, you want to meet up for lunch? And we were in Jersey. And I was like, sure. And we went somewhere, and like, it's kind of one of those, you start off formal. Yeah. A couple minutes later, you're like, oh, what are you into? And then you're like, all right, this person's cool, right? So I can start talking and be myself. And we realized we had a lot of shared interests. And on top of that, him coming from the technical side, me more from the commercial side, we realized there was a very complementary skill sets. And we just had a good vibe, similar to what you and I have had, where we said, hey, we bring different skill sets to the table, have a lot of shared interests. It would be awesome at some point to work together. And, things worked out that, 6 years later, basically, he was living in Oregon. I moved out there. We met up for a couple lunches, and we were like, hey, we've got this idea. He came up with it, actually, because his kids, he runs a not-for-profit basketball league. He was kind of unhappy with AAU in the area and decided to start a basketball league for the youth in Salem, Oregon. And they've got like 500 plus people now. Wow. They do a lot of stuff where they focus beyond basketball on academics and leadership development and community service. And his kids are super into basketball. He's got 4, super into gaming. And he kind of said, look, there's not really a good mobile basketball game, in his opinion, that really appealed to his kids. And started looking into it, did some analysis, some market research, and we were like, yeah, maybe there's something here, and just decided to go for it.
Yeah. But there's tons of basketball games, right? So like what makes what you're doing different at 13th Bridge, but specifically this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting when we dove into this space, because we're outsiders coming into this industry. Neither of us had ever done anything in the gaming space. I grew up almost exclusively playing sports games and exclusively on console. Him played a lot of different games. He was probably more typical of a gamer growing up. But for me, it was just like anything I know about hockey, I know because of NHL hockey on Genesis, right? I mean, Madden, from that first Madden, I was just hooked. Baseball, there used to be baseball games that weren't licensed, didn't have real players, and I'd like match up, this is Eric Davis, and I'd like keep scorecards. Like I'd keep all the stats, and I was really into all that. I'm probably good at math because of sports. And, with basketball for a long time, it was NBA Live. I mean, I remember in the dorm rooms with my boys, drinking, listening to mixtapes and playing NBA Live and Madden and just talking so much trash.
Teacher class on you all day, taking you right to the clinic.
The interesting thing is mobile is very different. Console today, you see a lot of games like 2K and Live that are very realistic, simulation heavy. They're grinds and they're great, but like you've got to be really committed to go through entire seasons and play the way you need to play in order to be good at those games. There's a lot of complexity, which is great because there's a breadth of maneuvers and everything. But for someone like me who likes to just get on and play and whatever, it's fun, but it doesn't quite meet the need. With mobile, the average play time is very short. It's short sessions. People are playing in 3 or 4 minute chunks a few times a day. People want sort of an intense experience, but also fun. They want fun above all else. In console, it's a lot of competitive play, and PC as well. In mobile, you just want fun. And what we found is that the mobile offerings were either, kind of I don't want to call it an afterthought, but you had 2K and Live that are primarily console type games move to a mobile platform. And then you had games that were just like super like casual, very carnival style, like Papa Shot type of stuff.
Like, would you put NBA Jam in that category?
No, so NBA Jam actually works really well for mobile. I think it's great. It's super arcadey, obviously, licensed game. But there's a lot that are like Papa Shot or like Basketball Stars, where you're just like flicking and shooting. And we felt there was something in the middle, that there was a need not being met, where it was still the short, fun play sessions, but authentic basketball. And then pulls in authentic basketball culture, all the things that are part of basketball culture and peripheral to it. We thought there's huge opportunity because that's who we are. That's what we're about. That's how we grew up. And we want to incorporate those things into a game that's fun to play and kind of appeals to today's gamers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's kind of my journey too with video games. And actually, how I've kind of gotten out of it is I was obsessed with Madden. Like in college, I would be
same
playing all day, and not all day, but like as much as I could, and beating everybody. And
we didn't play.
Yeah, that's true. Then I kept playing after college, but the games got more and more real, more and more complex, and I'm just like, I need to spend a lot more time in like the audibles and the play calling and the shifting, and it just became like I'm not
too realistic.
It became too realistic where I'm not going to invest this much time to learn all this, and then I play online. I'm getting smoked because I don't know how to.
By like 12-year-olds that are talking about your mom.
What you say about my mama?
Yeah, exactly. But so with Run the Court in 13th Bridge, your goal is to kind of find that middle ground between it's got to be fun, but it's not going to be so realistic. It's going to be a turn off.
Yeah, I mean, look, I remember there was one version of 2K. I don't remember which one it was, where like I was just like, I just want to dunk.
Yeah.
Why can't I just dunk? Like I want
where you
it
go
to
full
be
court and you lay it off awkwardly.
It's a layup, and I'm like, I can go do that in my backyard or in my driveway. So look, I feel like, why do we want to emulate reality when this is a little bit of an escape from reality?
Yeah.
You want it to be aspirational. You want it to have a fantasy element. And then the other thing too, you look at today's gamers, and I don't think traditional sports experiences and formats translate to today's and appeal to today's gamers, and particularly on mobile. So what we're trying to do is say, how can we reimagine basketball and other sports to really appeal to the playing preferences of today's players and give them that crossover, which is our first game of like Fortnite meets 2K, right? Where you have a really cool, format. You've got the short gameplay, but it's still authentic, but it has arcade elements. And I think that's got to appeal to a lot of people.
And it has a social element, which is what I feel like the difference between when you and I were playing and growing up playing versus now. It's like people are seeing you playing, you're wearing a headset on, you're streaming, and it's just like, we didn't grow up with that.
Yeah, and I mean, that's one of the things with our game is we really debated this early on, because I'm someone, I want to play Madden, I want to play League, I'm going to play probably not against anybody online because we'll probably get smoked. Yeah. But I play casually. I'm a dad. I got two kids. I don't have a ton of time for it, right? So I want to play the computer. I want to get better. I want to play. I want to see how bad I can beat them, what kind of stats I can put up. But today, so much of it is about cooperative play. And that's one of the things we thought, okay, how can we imagine a format that's ideal for that? And that's one of the reasons one of our modes is a 2-on-2, because you're matched up with someone else. You're feeling each other out without being overwhelmed with too many players on the court. You're learning to read each other pretty quickly. You can still do strategic things like a pick and roll, or you can just play a little bit more of like a, just pick up 2-on-2. Right. But the people that I think play this and are kind of like, okay, I'm kind of reading how my teammate plays or which character they're using, you can start to identify ways to be, there's a depth to the game that you wouldn't have in just a basic 2-on-2.
Yeah. All right. So you touched on authentic basketball culture as a driver and as a differentiator for the game.
Yeah.
So can you speak more to that, or just talk about influences and collaboration and collabs that you've done with anybody else or in the works?
I think when I think about it, it was really important for us to find people, whether they're athletes, celebrities, that really care about basketball culture and know how to reflect that and share that with the world. And like, we've got Dustin Cannellan, who is supremely talented designer and hugely influential. I don't think he might not be a household name even for basketball fans, but he's someone who his influence is so profound on basketball culture. He's designed the Warriors, the town jersey. He's worked on several of the city edition jerseys for the NBA, worked for End One and Adidas and Nike, and started Undercrown many years ago, which was just ahead of its time because it took pop culture. I mean, he had Biggie and Pac on t-shirts dunking basketballs. Like
Wow.
Undercrown was so dope and underappreciated. And now he's got his own, he started a new venture called Trophy Hunting, which is awesome. They've got some great stuff, and Steph Curry's wearing it a lot of
really?
times on the pregame before, on the entrance on the way into the games. And Dustin's worked with, KD and Kyrie and Giannis and Gilbert Arenas and Steph Curry very closely. And, you look him up and you're like, wow, this guy's touched so much and influenced so much of basketball culture. And for us, it was this huge win to have someone like that. Now he's going out on his own, establishing his brand. And he's the perfect example of what we want Run the Court to be for. We want this to be a platform for not just players, but like creators and creatives to come together and say like, hey, I want to design shoes. And I mean, like, we're going to have a marketplace in the game where people can start, trading and selling and, maybe even hopefully at some point designing gear and sneakers and everything else. And he's just someone who's so entrenched in basketball culture and such a fan and such a, he brings all the things to the table that RTC represents and 13th Bridge is trying to represent. Yeah, we're talking to other companies. We've got some other things in the work that I think are very much tied to basketball, sports culture, training, and that have overlapping values with us, with wanting to do community stuff, with wanting to really look at, particularly like underserved communities and support efforts and causes in those areas. And that's what we aspire to. So I think we're trying to find, groups like that, whether it's companies, endorsers, influencers, collaborators. And Dustin is the first one. I'm so appreciative of his understanding and willingness to see our vision, and now his role in creating that vision for us.
That's amazing. That's a lot more than what you told me, which he just liked the logo.
Yes, he did like the logo you guys put together. That is like a huge cosign. Like that is that's a good cosign, because if Dustin says like that's a dope logo, that's saying something. You met a high bar, so kudos to you guys.
Hey, thanks. 22-year-old Ryan Weldon. So
oh man.
If
I can talk
22-year-old me, I wouldn't want to talk about that either. But let's go back further.
Okay.
So let's talk about inspiration, influence. And, it's interesting about like the wall that we're sitting in front of as we were designing this in our office. It hits on inspiration, influence, and innovation. And so for you, I know you're a sportsman, but like speak to, and you can go as early as you want, but like what is the inspiration? Like what influenced Ryan Weldon?
So I think a big thing is like I moved around a lot. I've moved 17 times, not just little down the street moves, but moving overseas, the Philippines, Korea, England, all over the US. And I think that inevitably is going to have a large impact. I think it's funny because one of the questions people always start a conversation off with is like, where are you from? I'm always like, everywhere. So, but every one of those places influenced me. But I think when you're moving around that much, you kind of double down and hold on tighter to the things that are the consistencies. And beyond family, for me, I mean, from day one, it was sports. And not too long after that, it was really hip hop. So for me, I grew up overseas until I was about 12. I spent most of my childhood overseas. And it's funny because you get like this filtered view of America and American culture. It kind of like comes through the colander and reaches you. So I just got these little tidbits, right? So
Filtered good or filtered bad?
I mean, just filtered by chance sometimes.
Okay.
So the things that kind of would reach you were weird. I mean, like when I lived in Korea, your only sense of American culture and what was going on there was like spending time at the army base. The only time that you played sports was at the army base. So I really knew nothing about American professional sports leagues until I almost until I moved to the U.S. I mean, I remember watching Doug Williams and Timmy Smith in the Super Bowl, and I remember Kirk Gibson hitting that home run off Eckersley in the World Series, and that's like the only sports I'd ever really been exposed to before I moved to the U.S. I actually had a poster of the Fridge in my room,
really?
and as a kid, and I didn't know the first thing about him, like what position he played. People would ask me who my favorite baseball player was, and I'm like, the guy in the poster in the gym, and it was Eric Davis, which went on to become my favorite baseball player. But with sports, I think it was always playing sports up until I moved to the U.S. And then it was, wow, I'm just doubling down on this. I got so into sports. I was a huge baseball fan. I mean, every night I'd fall asleep listening to Yankees or Mets games. You know, I was playing video games because they were sports video games. I was playing sports in my driveway. Every day at school, I'd draw a baseball diamond and write my favorite players in it at every position. Basketball, I do that. I'd draw basketball cards with the little caricatures. Remember those T-shirts with like the big heads, right? So I would draw baseball card versions of those. It was all sports. And then the funny thing, like with hip hop, was like growing up overseas, I didn't have much exposure to American music. And some of the first things I remember were like the first Slick Rick album, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. He's the DJ, I'm the rapper. And I was like, oh, what is this? And I'd get these weird tidbits, right? Like I get like the Marlboro Man and Jazzy Jeff and then skateboarding. So, you know, when I got to US, it was like, wow, okay. Tribe Called Quest and Gangstar and EPMD and Nice and Smooth and just like, you know, Eric B. and Rakim and getting into that and just continuing to move and continuing to just become entrenched in those two worlds. So those were both very influential on me and I mean, continue to be to this day. Although I probably still listen to a lot of the older stuff from the 90s and 2000s. But yeah, and I continue to be a huge sports fan.
So sports was an influence both playing and watching.
Yeah.
And then music, right? So I know music, and now it's interesting how music is so woven into sports.
Yeah.
And you have rappers rapping about athletes and athletes, you know, dropping albums.
Right.
Like your boy.
Every rapper
Dame
wants
Dollar.
to be a baller and ballers want to be rappers.
Yeah. So you talked about growing up around music. So with music, is it just listening, or did you ever try to create anything on your own? Or
oh nah, new. I remember like on the periphery. Like I had a friend who worked at a studio in LA, and I remember like going over there, and I was just like, nah, I don't have the voice for this. And I'm just not musically inclined. It's just not my thing. I can tell you what's going to be hot, or I used to be able to once upon a time. Yeah. And I mean, I prided myself on finding stuff before it got big. But I couldn't make music myself. No. Yeah. Not going to happen.
What are your thoughts on mumble rap?
It's terrible. I mean, look, I grew up in the 90s, 2000s. That was like my period. So that's what I will cling to and like dig my heels in and be like, but I mean, look, for me, it's funny because hip hop was like baseball cards and sneakers now. Like I loved hip hop when a lot of people would like look down on you. I dressed in baggy clothes. I remember showing up to 9th grade the first day because I moved from New Jersey to Cincinnati. And I went to a totally different school, right? And in New Jersey, everybody's like dressing in baggy clothes and listening to hip hop. And I remember that first day of school in Cincinnati getting laughed at for wearing baggy clothes. And sure enough, like 4 years later, everybody's trying to be cool, right? And they're trying to be down and, oh, I'm wearing baggy clothes. And I'm like, where you been?
Yeah.
You wasn't there. So I think, but sneakers, it's the same thing. Like I loved sneakers as a kid. And then it's now become something else. It's become a business and it's sucked some of the fun out of it. Yeah. I could say the same thing about hip hop and it's like, nah, like it's great that it's become much bigger and much more influential, but it also feels like, oh man, that was like our thing. Like, you know, baseball cards were the same way. I remember collecting baseball cards because I loved the players and I loved baseball cards. And then it was like, I think that Upper Deck Ken Griffey rookie came out, right? And it was like, people were like, oh my God, it's $120.
Yeah.
It became a business.
Yeah.
And
true.
the whole world changed with
Yeah.
baseball cards. And the next thing I know, I'm buying pricing guides and checking
Yeah.
out the price of my collection every day, and it took all the fun out of it. So whether it's video games, sneakers, like I kind of miss that sometimes.
Yeah, when it was just purely for what
For
it was.
the love of it,
Yeah.
and I mean, look, there's nothing wrong. I mean, it's like, hey, people are getting paid off that stuff now and taking advantage of it, and I'm never going to knock anybody for that. But like, I choose to love the stuff that I love,
And I was surprised. I knew you were into sneakers, but you got to tell us like the story of your wedding sneakers. And also, I didn't realize that you have 120 pairs of Air Jordans.
No.
Ones. I thought you said you had like 120
No,
pairs.
maybe of sneakers.
Oh, okay. I was
Not
sneakers.
So growing up for me, it was white on white Air Force Ones and Timberlands most of the time. But when I was younger, like I still remember that Christmas when like I got the Barclays.
Oh, yeah.
And I still remember like the Jordans with the first ones with like the wings on them. I think it was the 3s, and having like the white and blue ones, even living overseas. I don't think I knew who Michael Jordan was, but yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of sneakers, but I will say as I kind of have transitioned into like being a dad, now I'm like buying them for comfort.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, I'm just like,
Are
I
you
gotta
wearing
chase.
Skechers? No.
No. It's still pretty much all Nike and my Timbs, but
Yeah.
now like the explosiveness of my shoes is like to keep my kid from falling into a pool or something.
Not cutting on the basketball court.
Yes, exactly. So now it's much more about comfort. I'm like, oh, these shoes hurt my back. I'm like that old guy.
My neck, my back, my neck and my back.
I need more support, more arch support. But I still, there's still sneakers that just take me back to a certain time, take me back to a certain place, and I'll try to get them. But I'm not going to run around. Like if you want to make me jump through hoops to buy them, like
yeah,
I'm not going to do it. I've got the money to pay for them.
Yeah.
If you don't want it, fine. Like I'll spend it on something else. But
Right.
like, so that's a tough thing for me. But my wedding, I wore sneakers. I got to go into Nike Design Lab in Mercer Street in New York and
Oh, wow.
select like crazy materials. It was like so overwhelming how many things there were.
Really?
And so I had to go with some Air Force Ones, although I went with high tops.
Oh.
And black and gold, which were the wedding colors. So yeah, my wife was thankfully went along with it.
Yeah, you married a sneakerhead as well, right?
No,
Or you turned her into a sneakerhead?
I've gotten her some nice sneakers, and my family's hooked her up with some good sneakers. But
Okay, so sneakers, hip hop, talked about sports. What about the whole celebrity lane? Like, if you could pick one endorser of 18th Bridge or Run the Court, who would the spokesperson of that be? Just one.
just one? Oh man. If I had to pick one, and this may not be necessarily, I'm going to go on the basketball side,
Okay.
keeping it true to the game, and then also just, preference. And I'm going to struggle between Dame, Giannis, and Iverson, because Iverson is my all-time guy. Love that guy. I think it cannot be underestimated that he's smaller than me, weighs less than me, and the level he played at to even be in conversations that he's in is just the heart that he had, the way that he played, the way he gave 100% every time. Is just unbelievable. The way he went in with the trees and just mixed it up. But today, like Dame and Giannis are my guys. Westbrook, I would say this. Westbrook, I love Westbrook. I went to UCLA for business school. I was there when Kevin Love and him and Holiday were on the team, and that was pretty dope. Love Westbrook. His energy is what we want in this game. Like he's arcade energy, and he goes so hard, and he gets
And he takes it personally.
Yeah, he takes it. And I'm like that. I'm super
Yeah.
competitive.
Yeah.
Like I hate you if you're on the other team.
Yeah.
So I love that about him. I think he takes so much heat that he doesn't deserve
Yeah.
because he is a great dude, like
Yeah.
community-wise, family-wise, everything. Anyway, I think he's awesome because he's a creator. his energy, just so much about him. So he's kind of the fit for the game. I gotta say, like, my two guys are Dame and Giannis, though.
Okay. Yeah.
I've been a Bucks fan for a long time.
Before it was cool.
Eric Murdoch was actually one of my favorite players growing up because he went to the high school I was going to go to in New Jersey.
So that's pre-Ray Allen, right?
Yeah, so there was that team that had Ray Allen, Vin Baker, Sam Cassell, Glenn Robinson, like
stacked.
That team was stacked. I don't know how they weren't better than they ended up being, but so I've been a Bucks fan for a long time. I had like the purple Bucks shorts back in the day. The thing I like about Giannis and Dame, they're both themselves. They're real. They seem like the two realest people. Like Giannis jokes around, but he's super competitive, but he's himself. Dame is like a whole nother level. I think he's the best leader in sports. He's so real. Like, who he is who he is. He's going to be who he is. Like, you just get that sense, like, and he's just, I mean, he's next level for me. I think there's a lot of guys out there manufacturing it, trying to be a brand, trying to do this. And I think Dame is like, I'm going to be me. I'm going to do me, be who I am. And you're going to take it or leave it. And he's such a good leader. I can tell you, living in Portland, the culture around that team is phenomenal. I mean, it's, I wish they could get over the hump.
Yeah.
But man, and Dame, there's something like, he's not a huge dude. Like, basketball is a game of, like, you have to have such deep confidence because basketball is a game of confidence, unlike any other game. And I think the way that, like, Dame is just such a supremely confident person that he can do those things because he believes he can. And that's just a testament to the person he is. And I think he's someone like I want my kids to look up to. Same with Giannis.
Yeah.
Both those guys. What they've come from, what they've achieved, the level they play at. One of the best projects I ever got to work on was putting together some of the when Giannis's contract was going to run up with Nike, and I met with them, and I was able to put some things together to help them with that pitch, and to see some of those things now coming to life.
Yeah, your ideas
is pretty cool. Yeah, it's really cool, and that's for someone that I love that much. So I mean, in my office, I got a statue thing of Dame and a statue thing of Giannis, like right there on either side of my computer.
Yeah,
but it's hard if the Bucks and Blazers met in the finals. I live in Portland. I'm a longtime Bucks fan. I don't know how I want it to end. And I love CJ too.
Oh yeah,
I love CJ.
He's underrated.
He's awesome.
I would have guessed Dame. That was my guess. Who was the spokesperson at 13th Bridge? Would you rather have Dame stay with the Blazers forever or leave and win a championship? Stay and never win a championship.
Here's the thing. My thing with Giannis and Dame, loyalty above all of this. Dame, I think he's exactly right when he said, like, his career is not defined by winning a ring, right? Like, and I see like Shaq and Barkley, right? Always like play, and I think that's like playful, whatever. But like that takes nothing away from Barkley.
Right.
Dame is a great, and if he doesn't win a ring, if Giannis doesn't win a ring, like that doesn't tarnish anything. Because I mean, look, Dame could leave, Giannis could leave, they could go to a contender and just like push him over the top. I think it takes something more to be there and build it.
Right.
I mean, that's one of the things I loved about Kobe. Kobe was like, hey, put scrubs around me. Like, I'm going to carry them, whether it's the playoffs or the championship. Like, and I like him a lot more post-career than I did during because I'm just not a Lakers guy.
Same.
But, man, I mean, I love Kobe.
Yeah. So loyalty over everything. That's good.
Yeah.
So just getting back to the game. So run the court and 13th Bridge Game Studio. First game is Run the Court. So we talked about what influenced you. We talked about the game. Like, what are some things that you want people to know about Run the Court?
So again, I think it's reimagining basketball and taking things that people that played ball know. So this is a game you can choose to play 1-on-1 or 2-on-2. One of the things that was an initial concept for us was, how do we take the elements of Fortnite and apply them to sports? And we were like, well, okay, Battle Royale, you drop 100 people on an island and they fight it out till one's left standing.
Right.
And the cool thing about it is you can still feel like you achieve something if you're not the last one standing. just by getting further than you got before. So what's the equivalent of that in sports? And it was like, it's March Madness.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
So March Madness, you drop 64 teams into a bracket and they play. You don't know what kind of craziness is going to go on that's going to open up the path for a 9 seed or a 14 seed or something like that. It always happens. And look, I'm a huge Xavier fan. Like Xavier's my basketball team for college.
Can I ask you why? I've never asked you why, but you're a huge Xavier fan.
I mean, I went to high school in Cincinnati, and it was like
okay.
I hated UC.
Yeah.
And I just somehow got in with Xavier. I always liked the underdog a little. And at that time, they were the little brother there, and now they're like the big brother there. But and they've got an awesome culture. I just came to love them. So I think like Xavier, it's unlikely they're going to win the national championship most years. But if they make it to the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8, that's a win for their season. And it's very similar, concept to Battle Royale. And so we were like, okay, if you drop 64 teams or people into this tournament and they play and you see who wins, and as you get further into the tournament, you're unlocking rewards and you're progressing. That's the first part. So I think that's a really unique take on it. I think the second thing is we're really trying to take authentic basketball culture. And what I mean by that is like we've put a lot of consideration into the gameplay. Like I said, basketball is a game of confidence. So the better you're playing, the better you're going to play in this game. Cool. In basketball, you're taught like keep your eye on the rim when you shoot. Don't watch the ball, right? So we've moved like the shot meter and put it on the above the hoop.
Oh, cool.
So it's something where it's like you're trained in basketball. Look at the hoop and keep your eye on that when you shoot. I think there's a lot of things from a gameplay standpoint. I think also basketball culture, there's such an overlap with hip hop. There's such an overlap with sneakers, with streetwear and sportwear, and all of those things. If you can authentically incorporate them into the game, provide so much for customization and progression and development. And then the last part is, I think there's this fallacy in gaming, and I could be wrong. This is a theory, that to be a successful sports game, you have to be licensed.
Right.
You have to have the ability to play as Steph or LeBron or something like that. I actually disagree. I think part of what makes gaming fun is the fantasy. And yes, there's the fantasy of being a Steph or a Dame or a Giannis or something like that. But I also think that becomes very limiting because you're limited by the players in the league. You're limited by those rosters. You're limited by their storylines. And you're also limited in a license by what you can do. So I remember, I don't know if you remember this, back in the day in Madden, you'd hit somebody and like the ambulance would drive onto the field, right?
I do remember.
And it would like run everybody
awesome.
over.
Yeah.
The NFL was like, whoa, CTE, concussions, kill that, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're not handcuffed like that.
Right.
We don't have those limitations. So I think for us, particularly in this day and age where it's important for us, and always has been for myself and him, to explore social issues, explore the world around us. This allows us to do that because what we've done is we've created a universe with basketball, this underground basketball league, which is kind of basketball meets Fight Club, as a central part of this. And there's a whole universe around it to explore.
Right.
There's storylines. Each character has their own backstory. Each player, there's sponsors, there's people behind the league where you don't know what their agendas are. We kind of say it's a league, a world where everyone has an agenda.
Yeah.
And you're kind of uncovering that as you play more in the game. So the storylines, we want to get people involved with the game as endorsers or characters in the game that can come in as their alter ego. I mean, imagine someone like a Shaq, right, who has always been big on the superhero thing, being involved with this game and having like his alter ego and being like this person behind the league, or, he's got an evil twin brother who's a player. You can do so many cool things. And I think our concept is let's build out these stories. Let's let these people come in and be part of the game and be a creative director for a season where they're creating the world for the season, the geography, the courts, they're designing them. We want our courts. We don't want just a bunch of blacktops and gyms. We want courts on the cliffs of Santorini. We want courts that are, there's that tennis court on the helipad in Dubai on the side of a tower, right? We want stuff like that because we can dream big like that. It's not too far-fetched. So imagine, you're a Dame and you want to do something very tied to Oakland and Brookfield. You want to do something tied to your back to school event. You want to do something tied to the Pacific Northwest or, whatever. You're Giannis and you want to do something tied to Greece. We can create those geographies in this fictional world. And let's say you want to explore a certain topic that's important to you. We can explore that through the storyline of the season. So I think in mobile, you're now starting to see more immersive games that have more storyline built in, and we want to really kind of do that as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that touches on a lot of things that are differentiators with Run the Court. So you talk about basketball meets Fight Club, which is funny. So I'm going to give you one suggestion for the game. If it makes it in, I'm not going to ask for any royalties. Have a game, and while the game is happening, have Malice at the Palace mode, where they go into the stands, and then it becomes a fighting game, and you have to survive beating up fans or coaches or whatever.
I mean, there's endless opportunities. I mean, we actually, so Dane being like a big boxing and wrestler fan, like you could put the turnbuckles and put a cord on the, and you could tie in a lot of different things like that. You could do so many cool things. Put a floating, actually our first cord in our first season is, there's this character, the chairman, who's behind the league, and you don't know much about him. He's kind of this mysterious Illuminati type figure. He's got this mega yacht catamaran, and the court's on the back of that, right? So you're seeing the ocean and the cliffs in the background, and
it's almost like Gladiator with the chairman, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot about power dynamics, about players and their role versus, what you call owners or, the people behind a league. And I think there's an interesting opportunity to hold this fictional universe up as a mirror of our own world,
right?
And to explore some of the things we do, just like a movie or a TV show does, where someone's like, oh, that character, I hate him. And you're like, oh, it's based on so-and-so. And they're like, what? Oh, I didn't realize that. I like that guy, but he's kind of not cool.
Yeah.
So, and I think there's just a lot of room to just develop this ongoing story. Whereas, 2K is an incredible game and I love it, but they're limited in what they can do from a story perspective.
Because of the licensing.
So it's Madden. Yeah, I think because of the license, and I mean, they can't get into, a lot of the gray areas or morally complex areas. I mean, I want our game to be like, The Wire, right? There's just like more complexity, or I think of it actually, a lot of it is like, I want it to feel realistic, but really realistic plus 20%, like more Iron Man than Thor.
Got it.
Like the movies.
Yeah, like it's possible.
Like Iron Man, you're like,
it's possible.
You don't have to suspend reality that much.
Yeah.
Thor, you're like, okay, there's magic and he's shooting thunderbolts from his hammer. Like, okay.
Yeah.
That's how we want to kind of
do
it.
That's cool. I gotcha. That's awesome. So it was good to hear more about the game, more about your backstory. Since this is episode 1, we're going to go into the segment that's for now called Quickfire.
Okay.
Because I couldn't think of a better name. And we haven't brainstormed on a better name for this segment, but just
Quickfire works.
Yes. So it's this or that. Would you rather? Yes, no.
Okay.
All right. So Quickfire question 1, Sega or Nintendo?
Oh, I was Sega all day.
Yeah. I was Sega all day too, but we deviated because you're Xbox, I'm PlayStation, right?
Yeah, I was PlayStation first, and then I kind of got convinced to try Xbox, and then I kind of got roped in, and now I'm there.
Yeah, you're sucked in.
But I'm not sure. I might go back to PlayStation. I'm
PS5?
I'm kind of whatever. Yeah. Either way.
All right, Pac or Biggie?
Oh, God. This is pretty impossible. Like, it's like 51-49. Like, I love Biggie. I'm probably more of an East Coast guy. But Pac, I mean, I listened to Pac before every game I played. Like, his energy, I don't know. I don't.
It's a tough question.
I don't know. All right, I'm going to say 51-49.
Ooh, that's close.
Pac? Yeah, I'm going to go with Pac.
Wow.
But, I mean, dude, like, it's like Damon Giannis. Like, it's right there for me. I can't. And I kind of feel like bad saying that even. I kind of want to go Biggie, but
Yeah. Yeah. I feel similar. Like I grew up on Pac and then I got really into Biggie. And it's like, it depends on what mood I'm in. So like if I want to party, it's gonna be Biggie.
I probably listen to more Biggie to be honest, but
same.
like Pac's passion, Pac's like whole thing. Like I gotta. I mean, and his first album, like Violin, and like that song, like like that intro.
Yeah.
I just, I don't know. That's a tough one. This is
hard.
killing me.
It's
It's killing me. It's killing me.
I think we can both agree that Pac and Biggie over everybody else after their lifetime.
Everybody, man, I don't know.
Who would you put in that category?
I mean, solo, or are you talking like just in general?
In general, or solo.
In that category, I mean, I've got to put Outkast.
Okay.
I gotta put Nas. I gotta reluctantly put Jay-Z. I love Jay-Z. But like lately I haven't been as big a fan.
Got it.
I mean, yeah.
Okay. Those are good. I grew up on those guys too.
I mean, look, I love Cam. I love most of the Wu-Tang guys. Like, I love a lot of people don't know. I love like Stack Bundles and like I could just go on for days, but I mean, Pac and Biggie both of them had something else.
Yeah, they did, and they're so young too. What you don't realize like how young they were, like what they were talking about. But for me, it's like Biggie if I want to like I'm in like the party mindset, and then like I feel like it's Pac if I'm like
so Biggie like some
of
Biggie's stuff that I listen to the most. I like the darkest ones.
Yeah.
Like his first, I mean, I'll listen to his first album all day. But like the last track on there, Suicidal Thoughts or whatever, like I'll listen to that constantly.
Yeah.
Like some of the darkest stuff from Life After Death.
Yeah.
Of course, Hypnotize and Money. I mean, I love all those and Bone Thugs and all that. Notorious Thugs. Biggie, I can listen to the whole thing. Pac, like same thing. And it just hits you on different emotions, different points.
Yeah.
But I mean, I listened to Violent before every sporting event of my high school career, and I was like ready to go murder somebody.
Yeah.
Somebody was going to get laid out.
Yeah.
And I was not playing football. So that tells you how amped up I was getting.
Yeah. No, it's amazing how music can fire you up or amp you up. So on music, what's a song or a lyric that influenced you on the business side, personal side, like one lyric or a song?
Oh man. I mean, I might go with Biggie. Leave the competition, respirator style, climb the ladder to success, escalator style.
As I leave my competition, respirator style, climb the ladder to success, escalator style.
That's definitely up there for me. But I mean, I'm so bad at these questions on the spot because I'm like,
there's so many.
I've got to like flip through and be like, I'm too like.
That's the point of quickfire, man. It's on the spot.
I know, but I gave you one. So
yeah.
But I think there's probably some Mobb Deep lines that I would throw in there. When worst comes to worst, my people come first. Yeah, that's got to be up there.
Yeah.
Worst come to worst, my peoples come first.
For every rhyme.
All right, mine.
I'll go with those to start.
I like it.
Oh, you prepped.
Well, I'm the interviewer. Biggie to all the teachers that told me I never amount to nothing.
Oh yeah.
I remember I posted that and you were like, "You're Indian." Like none of your teachers told you.
They told you were going to be a doctor or a pharmacist, or No, there's probably. I actually will tell you. I need to take a couple minutes, but there's some Cameron lyrics that would definitely be like that are probably I've got a big Cameron picture on the wall in the office. That's my guy.
Yeah.
But there's definitely some Cam lyrics that I would probably pull out. Yeah.
Nice as anthems. All right. Jordan ones or Air Force ones?
Air Force Ones.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, no, it's not even a question. Like, I was never a big Jordan guy. Like, Air Force Ones, white on white, all day in Tim's. And, like, I think it's hilarious that people are like, you can't wear Tim's with shorts. I wore Tim's with shorts all summer, every summer with no socks or ankle socks. Like, that was just everything I knew. Everybody around me did that.
Yeah.
And now kids are like, you can't wear Timberlands with shorts. And I'm like, what are you talking about? But Air Force Ones, like, I remember every spring I would go and buy 3 pair of white on white Air Force Ones. And I'd sit there with the Windex and I'd clean them. But as soon as they got a real scuff on them, I was like, next pair. And I was hoping 3 pair would get me through every summer.
Like Nelly. What do you say, 2 pair?
I don't know. This was before he was around. He was a big thing.
All right. So Air Force Ones. If you could only wear 1 pair of sneakers for the rest of your life, which ones would they be?
So if I go for comfort, I wear Westbrooks every day.
Really?
Every model of the Westbrooks.
You might be the only person that wears Westbrooks every day, besides Russell Westbrook.
But they're so comfortable and they have so much support. I wear them every day. They're my house shoes.
Okay.
Like, they are my house shoes. So I would go with that, but I also think the Jordan 3s or probably the 11s.
Okay.
Probably the 11s.
Okay. Yeah, you can't go wrong with those. That's the holy grail.
Yeah.
If you could only play 1 video game for the rest of your life, and you can't say run the court,
Madden.
which one would it be?
Madden. Yeah,
No question. Even before I finished asking the question.
Nope, not a question.
Wow.
The first Madden that came out, I remember like just seeing how much I could score by running the post to Jerry Rice from Joe Montana. It was like hike 1, 2, 3, throw.
Yeah.
I've been Madden guy forever.
Yep.
You know, there's definitely some things I want them to do in franchise mode, but I could play that game regardless forever.
Yeah, that's what it would be for me too. Is Madden all day.
Really?
Yeah.
We got to play.
Yeah, we have to play.
It'll be better than playing like a 12-year-old that's going to talk about your mom.
Yeah.
Like, we're probably equally not great, but
pretty
good.
Yeah, we got to play.
Yeah.
All right. Again, with the rest of your life questions, you can only listen to mumble rap, or you can only wear Skechers. Which one are you going with?
I mean, so
no.
There's some
No
Skechers
disrespect
ads
to
now.
Skechers.
There's some Skechers ads now that like make them look pretty comfortable. So being a dad, I kind of want to go there because, like, I don't know. I can't listen to some of this. It's bad. To me, it's works for today's kids, but I think I'd wear Skechers.
Wow. So you wear Skechers and listen to all your albums.
Yes.
Wow.
I mean, I'd rather give up my sneaker collection than my music collection.
Okay. Fair. Interesting.
I got a lot of CDs I have back. I had every tape and every CD.
More CDs
than
sneakers.
I remember, like, I was so deep. Like, Snoop Dogg, when he said, like, Little Half Dead, I was like, is that a rapper? And I went out and bought Little Half Dead's album, and I was like, why did I buy this? But I still do that. I did that with every reference ever.
Wow. Okay.
Or, like, read the credits and buy every album.
Wow.
I bought them all.
That's hardcore. That's hardcore. All right. Last question. This is going to go a little deeper here. 100 years from now, what do you want people to remember about Ryan Weldon?
That I was a good father. I was a good friend. I took care of people in my life. I think those would be the biggest things. I mean, above all else, like being a great father. I think like that's, you have kids and it changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole nother thing. Like I'm a great husband, sure. But like parenthood is a whole nother thing. It's
Yeah.
a whole nother journey. And it's like, I look at those kids every day and like, I'm their protection. I'm like, I go to bed every night. Like, how can I be a better father tomorrow? Right. So,
Wow.
and like, it's just an eternal state of guilt for like, oh man, you
I
could
didn't
have
do
like,
this.
you could have like, if you're with a kid for 12 hours, it could be like 11 hours and 57 minutes of like great interaction. In 3 minutes, you get short and you're like, go to bed feeling awful, right? So I definitely think that. I mean, I'm a huge person who read a lot of autobiographies, a lot of history stuff. And I think like what was always interesting was people would talk about people's impact on like a society, but like I think you hand that down through your children. And I think like education is the soul of a society passed down, you know, and I believe in that. And I want my kids to be great parents to their kids and pass that along so that, you know, it's not starting with me because I was very fortunate to have two great parents. But I want that to continue, you know?
Yeah. That's awesome. So that's legacy. That's kind of what I was thinking with the question, with framing that question is just like, I asked Sharon this yesterday. I was like, okay, so here's my last question. It's, what do you want in your obituary? And she's like, no, you can't ask that. She's like, it's too dark. This is supposed to be fun. But it's a question of legacy. It's like, what do you want to be remembered
And I mean,
for?
I've never been like a big legacy person. I don't care if I'm forgotten. I don't need to be remembered. I don't need to be like in the public eye or a celebrity. I think for me, especially since having kids, it's much more important, my impact on them. I'd like to have a greater impact as well. You know, I would hope that I set an example and set an aspirational mindset for my children and that they continue that because my parents set it for me.
Yeah.
I honestly have always been a believer I could do whatever because my parents, I think, put that in me. Yeah. And I want my kids to feel the same way, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a good answer. I mean, I know that's deep, but just fatherhood. I mean, like, what's more important than that?
Yeah.
So, full steam ahead on Run the Court.
Yep.
Your first game, basketball. That's your passion. Grew up with it. What's next after Run the Court?
So, I mean, I think coming back to that whole idea of reimagining sports formats to appeal to today's gamers, you know, you think like there's endless opportunities. Obviously, you can do stuff with soccer and football. And I've become really interested in sort of golf. I've never been a big golf guy,
right.
But people are starting to change what golf is, right? You look at someone like Roger Steele.
So pretty much the whole concept is, you know, we just need more diversity at different levels of the game, right? And that goes from the professional levels all the way to like more retention opportunities down at the youth level.
Who's just changing, like he actually has made me want to be like, hey, I want to go play some golf. I want to go to Top Golf. I want to, you know, go to 5-iron golf, whatever. Like,
right.
And which is funny because the 5-iron's the only thing I can hit. But he's making me see another side of it and he's making it cool. Right. And you look at East Side Golf and some of these people that are changing that. I think golf lends itself really well to mobile. There's obviously some very successful golf games, but I think, again, you can reimagine them. You know, so I think there's a lot of opportunity. And what I think would be great is to build out all these different sports formats and around this universe that we've created. So that's the long-term plan, I think.
Yeah, I actually got to say that too. Like the pandemic has gotten me hooked on golf. And a friend of mine who I go out with 90% of the time, who talked a lot of shit, has got me very, very hooked on golf. And but I do love this movement of making golf cool and
right.
diverse.
You're making it more accessible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's for so long it was like this white elitist country club thing, and I think it's become much more approachable, much more like. I mean, there's no other sport where you can like drink and play. I mean, there's clearly been some NBA players that like tell their stories now. Like I played that game drunk, but I mean, golf is something that you can play on different levels. You know, tennis is something like that too. I just don't know how much. Got to think about how much you can reimagine tennis, but like golf, I think there's some pretty cool stuff you could do. Football, soccer, I think the opportunities are endless.
Yeah. All right. So the next game after Run the Court is Run the Course.
It might be. It might
All
be.
right, let's go. I'm excited. All right, so that's gonna wrap up our first episode of Behind the Build, and I'm honored to have my friend.
Thank you.
Ryan Weldon from 13th Bridge.
It's my first podcast, so I appreciate it. First for you, first for me. So.
Yeah. I haven't been on this side of the podcast seat, but no, this was fun.
Yeah.
So thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Ryan, for coming out, and stay tuned.